From Center City in Philadelphia, this is Fox 29 News at 5.
A neighborhood still a crime scene 24 hours after gunshots began a tense standoff.
It's chaos. I mean, chaos. I've never seen nothing like this before.
More gunshots, guys.
6 officers shot, 2 others trapped.
Wednesday was a heart-wrenching day for the city of Philadelphia.
The man accused of pulling the trigger in and out of trouble with the law for nearly 2 decades.
Now everyone wants to know, who is this suspect, Maurice Hill, and how did this happen?
Neighbors are still rattled in North Philadelphia, and some still can't go home after their streets turned into a gunfight. And tonight we're learning more about the man police say was at the center of it all. And you saw it all unfold right here in real time just 24 hours ago here on Fox 29. 6 officers shot, 2 others trapped in a home for hours. And tonight they are all okay. I'm Jason Martinez.
I'm Shayna Humphreys, and new developments are still coming into our newsroom by the hour. Let's start with what we know right now. This is the suspect. 36-year-old Maurice Hill, seen here in an old mugshot. He is still waiting to be arraigned. Formal charges have not yet been announced, but Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner says Hill may spend the rest of his life in prison if convicted. Back at the crime scene, it is still active. Police investigators say they are still waiting to go into the home where Hill was holed up with those guns for nearly 8 hours.
And we have live team coverage for you at 5 o'clock. Our Dave Schratweiser live at the scene. Jeff Cole has new details on the suspect, and Bruce Gordon has been talking to parents at that daycare near where the gunfire erupted. But we do begin with Chris O'Connell. He was live at the scene during the chaos last night, and tonight he's in Center City where the mayor, police commissioner, and several local, state, and federal lawmakers spoke about yesterday's shooting. Chris.
Well, Jason, Philadelphia police offering some stunning new details in reference to yesterday's day-long standoff. The weaponry that was used, the officers' names have just been released over the last couple minutes, and also the heroism of those 2 officers who were holed up with 3 hostages for hours before their rescue. Take a look at this video. The video takes you right there to the scene. The doorbell images of the early on in the standoff, the officer stumbling out the door after he was shot, one of 6 officers shot, including the bloodied officer being escorted to safety across your screen. Police say while 36-year-old Maurice Hill, a career criminal, was shooting at police from the first floor, 2 police narcotics strike force officers were trapped in an upstairs bedroom during a fierce long battle with 3 hostages there. They were eventually rescued by fellow officers. Commissioner Ross explained how those officers told SWAT members not to come into that house for their own safety.
These officers were astute enough and wise enough and brave enough to say, do not come in here. Do not come in here. If you come in here, you will be met with severe gunfire.
After 7.5 hours, just after midnight, Hill surrendered to police after tear gas was deployed. Now, officers also being hailed as heroes for safely evacuating a nearby daycare filled with children. They were holed up for hours. Mayor Jim Kenney getting emotional over what he witnessed.
To see our officers carrying little babies, holding kids' hands, and walking them to safety showed me what those men and women are really about. They're about protecting us.
Now, Police Commissioner Richard Ross telling me today he did speak with 3 of those officers who have been released from the hospital. They are doing well. He also told me he was in the height of this negotiation. He thought this was going to end very, very differently. Meanwhile, Maurice Hill, according to the district attorney, will be charged with enough charges to keep him in prison for the rest of his life. Guys?
I think just like the commissioner, many of us thought it was going to end much differently than it did, but so grateful that it ended the way it did. Thank you, Chris. We'll check back in with you at 6.
And it really was a miracle. In the last few minutes, we've actually learned Philadelphia police releasing the identities of those 6 officers injured in yesterday's shootings. 3 of them assigned to the Narcotics Strike Force, the other 3 assigned to local police districts. They all range in age from 26 to 43 years old, with the youngest serving just 2 years on the force, the oldest serving the past 19 years as a Philadelphia police officer.
We want to get you back to that video now that you saw first on Fox this morning as officers literally crawled for their lives. Unbelievable. A new vantage point of a very intense situation. Those officers ducking for cover behind cars, weapons drawn, gunshots ringing out. Then you saw an officer tumble out of that home as his brothers and sisters in blue rushed to get him help.
And while the blasts of gunfire have ceased and the standoff is now over, that neighborhood is still a crime scene tonight. Let's get out to our Dave Stratweiser live at the scene. And Dave, what's going on in that house today?
Jay, 24 hours after the firefight here at 15th and Erie, police are still here. It's still an active crime scene. We'll give you a look right here. The crime scene unit has been here since 2 o'clock this afternoon gathering evidence. I'm told already they have recovered 85 pieces of ballistics in the living room alone. This guy was firing from the kitchen. They've recovered 4 guns, hundreds of rounds of ammunition, drugs, and other things inside the house. All this while neighbors here try to come to grips with what happened yesterday.
All the other cops started coming in, and it was chaos.
As crime scene investigators return to the home where police say 36-year-old Maurice Hill opened fire on them, this couple huddled in their SUV right around the corner, reliving Wednesday's hail of gunfire that left 6 police officers wounded.
Well, I first started gunfire right after the 3 cops went through the alley. And then it went boom, boom, boom.
It's like 200 or 300 rounds probably were fired by him, they're saying.
I would say close to that. Sound like, I mean, I'm a ex-military guy and I know what rounds sound like.
The couple was removed from their home just a few yards from the rear of the house where police say Hill was firing rounds at them as narcotics officers served a warrant around 4 o'clock Wednesday. As the couple left, SWAT sharpshooters went in to train their sights on the suspect from on high.
They just ushered us out, so then they took over our house.
Yeah. I guess they were looking for a tactical advantage from the back of your house.
That's what it was.
And they had it.
I saw one sharpshooter go in after we left.
As the neighborhood caught its breath, police started gathering evidence inside the home on the 3700 block of North 15th Street. An AR-15 style rifle in the kitchen, empty magazines, a crossbow, and hundreds of rounds of ammunition were scattered about the crime scene. Police say Maurice Hill surrendered with a .380 semi-automatic handgun still in his pocket.
Tioga is really a nice place.
Yeah.
It's just that there's some bad guys.
Police Commissioner Richard Ross himself conducted negotiations with the suspect throughout the day and night, even keeping Hill on the phone while SWAT officers rescued 2 narcotics officers and civilians who were pinned down in the upstairs rooms. A few hours later, tear gas forced Hill out and the violence was finally over.
It was chaos. I mean, chaos. I ain't never seen nothing like this before in my life.
Now, Commissioner Ross said the same thing to me this morning, saying he expects Maurice Hill to be hit with 6 counts of attempted murder, weapons charges, and other offenses again. 200 to 300 rounds, we're being told, were fired from inside that house. 4 weapons recovered so far, drugs, cash, and a crossbow, as you saw in our story right there. Police still continuing to gather evidence. Guys, back to you.
200 to 300 rounds and no deaths. Just incredible. Thank you, Shrat.
Amazing.
So who is this suspect, Maurice Hill? Again, that's him in a mugshot from a prior crime, along with video of him surrendering to officers late last night. And we're learning this guy has quite a history with law enforcement. Our Jeff Cole has been looking into his past. He is live in Center City. What have you learned about him, Jeff?
Shana, Maurice Hill's long criminal history came under scrutiny today. It also prompted sharp criticism by the U.S. Attorney William McSwain against the city's District Attorney Larry Krasner. Krasner saying today simply the system did not stop Hill. When 36-year-old Maurice Hill surrendered with hands held high, it was not his first brush with law enforcement, but certainly the most violent.
He continues to fire rounds out of the window,
So this situation is in no way resolved.
Hill has a long history of arrests, running back to his late teens, and has been in and out of both state and federal jail cells. According to police, Hill was heavily armed last night, and his record shows arrests for illegal possession of guns, assaults, and dealing drugs. All of the offenses and prosecutions occurring before District Attorney Larry Krasner took office, who was asked Thursday if his prosecutors had prior contact with Hill.
As best I can tell, the answer is absolutely not.
According to public records, Hill was sentenced to 4 years, 7 months in federal prison for gun violations, his longest time served, but got out to again break the law.
The system had multiple contacts with this man, and the system, following its policies and its philosophy at those times, did things that obviously did not stop this incident.
Shaka Johnson is Hill's attorney. He appeared this morning on Good Day Philadelphia.
Which is a segue to a much larger conversation about how a person is able to acquire that many guns.
The region's top federal prosecutor blamed the shootings on what he called D.A. Krasner's disrespect for law enforcement, but admitted Krasner's office had never handled Hill's cases while raising questions about a warrant for his arrest.
Now, I have not verified yet whether that was a live warrant, but it is on the criminal history, and we're trying to determine the exact status of that warrant.
Krasner says he's aware of the warrant and says it might be a probation violation. The U.S. attorney says he may bring federal charges against Hill, and another federal agency, the ATF, seems anxious to track all the weapons used overnight. Live at the federal courthouse, I'm Jeff Cole, Fox 29 News. Folks.
Thank you very much, Jeff. President Trump monitoring the situation last night, commenting on it today. He wrote on Twitter, quote, "The Philadelphia shooter should never have been allowed to be on the streets. He had a long and very dangerous criminal record. Looked like he was having a good time after his capture and after wounding so many police. Long sentence must get much tougher on street crime," end quote. Now, local, state, and federal lawmakers today called on their peers to get much tougher on guns. They especially want a ban on assault rifles. In the midst of all the violence, 2 daycares were locked down while gunfire erupted around them. And tonight, the moms and dads of all those little ones, they want to thank those teachers and police for keeping their babies safe.
And let's turn to our weather here. Clouds popping up across our area, and showers could too. Live look down the shore. Kathy Orr tracking it all live in Ventnor, Atlantic County. Hey, Kathy.
Hey, we have a little sun down here, but a few extra clouds, but it's not going to stay that way this weekend. Wait till you see the forecast for no matter where you are. That's coming up when we come back.
Incredible video just tweeted out by SEPTA's police chief, Thomas Nestel. It shows dozens of Philadelphia Housing Authority police officers and transit officers charging over to the scene yesterday to help some of the bystanders get to safety. Nestel tweeted, "Phenomenal work by the Philadelphia Police Commissioner in turning a nightmare into a miracle."
All of them running to the bullets, running into the action. Yeah. One of the most gut-wrenching moments of yesterday's fiasco was the fact that little children were so close to the flying bullets at 2 daycare centers. I mean, that is a face you'll just never forget, that young man. Our Bruce Gordon is live back at the scene near Broad and Erie.
And Bruce, you spoke with some of the parents who were surely terrified, anxiously waiting to be reunited with those kids.
Yeah, Police Commissioner Richard Ross had high praise today for his officers in shepherding to safety dozens of children from not one but 2 daycares right near that firefight. That no kids were hurt was surely one of the biggest miracles of the day.
We are closed due to our community emergency.
The Precious Babies daycare at Broad and Erie was empty Thursday, but outside, 21-year-old Naomi Pettit was full of emotion. Her 2-year-old Mila had been locked down in the daycare stairwell for what seemed like an eternity Wednesday afternoon as a gun battle raged just outside.
When I got to the corner, I was asking the police officers, could I get to my daughter? They told me no in or out, no near the, couldn't come near the daycare.
More than 2 hours later, during a lull in the shooting, authorities were finally able to carry youngsters out of the daycare and onto waiting SEPTA buses parked out of the range of the bullets. Naomi says she got to Mila and burst into tears.
I cried. She was very quiet. She's not usually like that. So
pretty emotional.
It was.
Just a few doors south on Erie, the Shake, Rattle, and Roll daycare was evacuated. The kids escorted to a sister facility around the corner on Broad Street by police acting as parents.
They were smiling, holding their hands, carrying the children, interacting with the children as they was escorting them around here.
David Richburg was reunited with his 8-year-old daughter, Jakaya, after several hours of separation, punctuated by the pop, pop, pop of gunfire.
What did the adults tell you?
To go in the kitchen and sit down.
Go in the kitchen and sit down.
Yes.
Did they tell you what was happening?
Yes.
Were you a little scared?
Yes.
It's just a crazy time and age, and when things like this happens in your neighborhood, it just reminds you of it.
Around 1 a.m. Thursday, Naomi Pettit, her husband, and little Maya were finally allowed back into their home, right across the street from the shooting scene. A bullet-riddled front door greeted them. Naomi held Mila tightly.
She just grabbed me so hard, and that's what made me just like, this I have to get out of this neighborhood.
Lakeisha Wilson of Shake, Rattle, and Roll said to me today that they often turn safety drills into games in order to keep the kids calm when the real thing comes around. As for those police efforts to keep kids safe, Mayor Kenny said today it gives him faith as to who we are as a city. Jason?
It's a total symbol of what yesterday was all about. Thank you very much, Bruce Gordon. The first calls for help came in show the intense and dangerous situation that officers faced. You could hear the urgency in the voice of the dispatchers.
We got several shots, officers. We got an officer down. They're still getting shot. Shots fired. I need long gun SWAT 3715 North 15th. Assist you also, please by radio. We have an officer shot, and they're still being shot at.
Well, today, the head of the police union described what it was like to hear that from the men and women he represents.
We got the report of an officer shot in the leg. We responded. As we're heading to the hospital, second officer, then a third officer, then a fourth, then a fifth. So, and later on a sixth. It's chaos. It's orchestrated chaos. And again, for everybody on scene that did what they did, God bless them. They did a great job, and we're very proud of them.
Now, in the end, miraculously, all 6 officers who were shot and the 2 trapped in that home are alive and have been released from the hospital.
As all the chaos was starting to build, some officers were fending off multiple attacks, not just the bullets from the shooter, but objects being thrown by some neighbors. A sergeant was hit in the head, and tonight this video you're about to see is going viral. It shows police leaving a home near the corner of Pacific and North 15th Streets when a crowd surrounds them. You can see people shoving and yelling at the officers. Then an object is thrown at one of them. Our Bill Anderson went there to get a feel of the neighborhood. He'll have much more coming up tonight at 10. Now, keep it right here. We are staying on top of all the latest developments in these shootings. We'll have much more here at 5 and on Fox 29 News at 6.
And turning to other news tonight, in Gloucester County, police arrested this woman, Tasia Russell, saying that she set a home on fire. Now, crews got the call to South Barber Avenue back on August 4th. Firefighters rescued a dog from the home and quickly put out the flames. A man was taken to the hospital for burns and smoke inhalation. After investigating, prosecutors charged Russell with attempted homicide, aggravated arson, and criminal mischief. A suspected bank robber's spree is snapped.
Delaware State Police say they arrested 39-year-old Michael Wheeler yesterday. He's charged in connection to a series of robberies at multiple banks in Delaware, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey over the past 2 weeks. Police say each time Wheeler gave the teller a note demanding money. They say he never took out a weapon, but implied that he had one. He's being held on a $70,000 bond.
Yesterday's rain has moved out, so bring on the acoustic guitar reader. That just means one thing, or down the shore. And it's a picture-perfect day down there today.
Perfect time to be down there.
Yeah.
Kathy's live in Ventnor, Atlantic County. How's it going down there, Kathy?
Guys, it's beautiful here. If you've never been to Ventnor, it has some great restaurants, great dessert shops, and a beautiful view. I mean, look to the north. Behind me, it's a pretty partly cloudy day. Extra clouds here, but you can still see the skyline of Atlantic City to the north, and it is really beautiful. Let's talk about the weather a little bit, especially on Ultimate Doppler. We do have a few showers and thunderstorms popping up. One was a severe cell that was in the Poconos. That has been allowed to expire, but it does pack a punch with heavy rain. Temperatures right now mainly in the 80s with some some 70s down the shore, and there's a beautiful sea breeze. That ocean water temperature up there as well. Take a look at the numbers down the shore. Mid-70s in Ocean City, Surf City, Atlantic City, 73, the same in Ventnor. And the next 12 hours tell the story. Temperatures falling through the 70s with a few storms possibly popping up. We do have a front to the south, and that's going to keep a chance of a shower or storm in the forecast. Here's a look at what's coming up. Morning fog expected tomorrow. The humidity will turn tropical. And guess what? We are in for an extended heat wave coming this weekend to a city and shore near you. Back here live, these guys have been in the water all day. How was it? Good. Good. Was it cold? Sort of, yeah. Callum, what are you going to say to everybody in the studio? Back to the studio.
Back to the studio.
Back to the studio. We'll have the 7-8 coming up.
Thank you both. Thank you, everybody. And Fox 29 News on top of new developments in that shooting that injured 6 Philadelphia police officers. The unique way Philly's top cop helped convince the suspect to surrender.
And all new at 6, that is one clean criminal. Police say he stole more than $600 worth of soap. Our question, same as yours. Why?